Hello, it's Emma Jo here from Lavinia Stamps, and this week we are doing Lavinia Tours 8 and it's part 1. Fabulous. I'm not going to show you what we're doing, I'm just going to give you a brief description. So we're going to be using masking papers, masking sheets to do a technique that can be mirrored on both sides. And it's a watery theme. But you're going to be wondering, how did we get there? All will be revealed. Maybe not this week, but all will be revealed. Anyway, enough chat from me. It's great fun. It's building that story. And let's go and see how it's done. Okie dokie, let's get going. So we're starting with some masking. For this, you're going to need Lavinia masking sheets, 2 A4 multifarious sheets of card, and I'm literally drawing some horizontal lines. So you've got a rather lovely curved cliff edge that you can see I'm cutting out here. So that's a swoop down from the top left down to the bottom right, and then 3 layers across. Now it's completely up to you how you do this, but you just want one swoopy hill layer and then 4 little layers in that, so 5 in total. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start putting them onto our A4 multifarious card. Now this is going to be mirrored on the other side, so I'm going to be showing you how to do that too. All right, so just piece your jigsaw of masking shapes together. So I've got a foreground, which is going to be that hill shapey bit. And then this rather large, yeah, take time getting it into the right position. That large bit is the bottom, if you like, of the sea or lake or puddle, whatever we want it to be. And then I'm popping the next layer on top, followed by the penultimate one. And then the last layer. Now I've kept the last layer off. And I'm peeling it off onto the back of another piece of masking tape, turning it over and using, you probably can't see it too well, but it does show through easily. You can then trace the line of that layer. Okay, ready for the mirror side. So we're adding colour to the first level, which is the bit that I left the sticky off. So this is Elementsync Sundance and a size 9 stencil brush. And I'm just putting colour on in a very light, swirly sort of way. Gently, gently. Perhaps it's darker at the edges, you know. And then this is Elementsync again, and it's green sleeves. And again, putting it on so that it's darker at the edges and perhaps darker at the top. Now, there will be, there you go, you can see now why I've done that. I'm going to use the Vine Branch stamp and I ink it up in VersaFine Clair Shady Lane for rather lovely, moody, branch type treetop effect. And I rather like this. If you imagine a branch dangling over a body of water, it doesn't quite necessarily touch because they're not all that long, but I just like this reminder of the tree canopy above. Yeah, so that's what that is. And you can ink it up and second gen, stamp off and then do the second gen to get a better feeling of depth behind those branches. Okay, so now I'm going to pop that first layer, I'm going to cover it up with that stamp, and the first bit of masking paper, and I'm taking off the second bit, ready to work on it, but I'm popping it onto that piece, the back of the piece of masking sheet, turning it over so that I can trace the line. Yeah? Okay, level 2. I take it we're calling them levels, jolly good. Okay, so level 2, we start with our stencil brush size 9, and we're heading into the water. So we're doing Elementsync Blue Atoll. Gently, gently, swirly, swirly across. What am I talking about? Sorry. Gently, gently, in circular motions, bring the colour to the paper. Love it. It's just a subtle, subtle blue, isn't it? Until you build it up, and then it's stunning. Love it. Okay. Again, darker at the outside edges. And you build your colour up until you're happy with it. And this is Elementsync Mermaid that I'm using at the bottom edge of that level. And again, doing this in a circular motion, that's a lovely colour. So we're going to be not going over the top with any extra stamping. We're just going to get a fan brush, some water, and sprinkle some water over this layer. Now this effect will be something that will unite the levels below. So getting your paper towel, splat that water, and look at that. Isn't that magic? Now, before you apply your masking tape back onto that, remember you'd have to just give it a little bit of a dry, or make sure it's dry. So here you can see I've added more water on that fan brush, sprinkled it over, and taken the excess off again with the paper towel. And do that until you're happy with it. Love it. Okay. So as you can see, I'm taking the Ranger Heat tool, just giving it a quick blast of heat. And popping the masking tape shape back in place. That should just protect all the work that we've done. And don't forget, if it doesn't stick, you can always add an ink pad or two to keep it in place. And that's me popping it to the back of the other masking sheet so that I can draw around the shape, ready to do my mirrored side. So this is level 3 of the first side. And I've got my stencil brush size 9, Elementsync Della Blue. And I'm going to use a little bit of Elementsync Bermuda. And I'm starting that at the bottom. So this sort of gives us that murky feeling of something happening a bit deeper in this body of water. And this is violet chalk. Lovely. And we just pull those colours together with our stencil brush in circular motions. Fab. Okay, so grab your fan brush again, pop some water on it, and add your splatters of water. Then grab your paper towel and lift. And look at that. So simple, so effective. Give it a quick dry off with your Ranger Heat tool. And then apply your masking tape back into position. And there you can see I've taken the masking tape of the next layer off, popped it on the back of the masking tape for the next level and next page, and drawn my shape. Now this is level 4. It's my size 9 stencil brush with Elementsync Bermuda. And I'm just doing the outside edges. Now, I'm not worried that that masking tape has lifted there because I knew I had a little bit of white that I wanted to just cover. So I'm now using Elementsync Dark Denim around the edges again and building that colour up so that it blends in with the Bermuda. And this is Elementsync Blue Atoll, so I'm bringing that colour from the first level into the bottom, and it sort of helps to combine it and make it look like it all makes sense. It's about balance of colour, really. Okay, so this is where I'm stamping the Blue Orbs stamp, and I've inked it up in VersaFine Clair Warm Breeze. So you might think it's not that obvious, and you'd be right, but it's because I don't really want it to be that obvious. So this was perfect for what I wanted it to do. Okay. Adding some more water onto my fan brush so that I can then take that colour off with a paper towel. Happy days. There we go. Now give that a bit of a blast with your heat tool again. And replace the masking paper. So we're now on the final level, and I'm popping that onto the back of that masking sheet, turning it over and tracing around the shape so that I've got my mirrored side for page 2. But let's get back to level 5 now on the first page. So this is my Stencil Brush size 9, and I'm using Elementsync Sundance. Just at the very top, look at it lift those colours. I mean, I know they've got masking paper on them, but you can see that it's already, by doing that, connecting with the top level, the one with the vine branch stamp on, you know? So we've got a gentle, generous covering of colour over that last level. And we're adding here some Elementsync Dark Denim. Oh, it makes it have more depth, looks more mean and moody, doesn't it? Very atmospheric, which is what we're after. Nice bit of atmosphere, a feeling of depth. Lovely. And this is where you remove all your layers and you look at those colours together. And they are all united by the limited palette and by the splattering of water that we've used on every level, bar the 2 yellowy ones. Fab. So repeat for the right hand side of the journal, and don't forget we've made those masters for the masking sheets. So this is me cutting them out, peeling them off, sticking them down. I'm doing this faster, but I'm still doing it so that you can see what I did. Okay, peel and stick, peel and stick. And you get the same levels but mirrored, which makes a rather dandy looking double page spread. So again, using lots of hands there, sorry about that. Again, using my Elementsync Sundance. You've got all this for the first bit, a little bit of green sleeves there, Elementsync. And then we're going to add our vine branch stamp with VersaFine Clair Shady Lane. Super speedy, super speedy. Obviously, don't try and do it that quickly. It's impossible. And this is Elementsync Blue Atoll. Oh, it's like a test, this. Darker at the edges, remember. Build up your colour gently, gently. Then we add a bit of mermaid. And that helps us get this feeling of depth. Using our size 9 stencil brush, round and round in circles. Again, fan brush, water, paper towel. Splat, splat, splat. Look at that. Fab. Love it. So, such an easy but effective way of creating texture. Lovely. Pop your masking sheet back on, rip next level off, start again. What are we doing? Size 9 stencil brush, Della Blue, Elementsync Della Blue, bit of violet chalk, and a bit of Bermuda. Elementsync Bermuda. Water splattage, using a fan brush, paper towel, heat it up until you're happy, pop the masking sheet back on. Rip masking sheet off for next level. Add colour, Blue Atoll. Elementsync Blue Atoll, size 9 stencil brush, bit of mermaid. So we're building up our colour for that last bit of water, and this is dark denim. Building up our edges with colour. Adding some water with our fan brush, removing the water with a piece of paper towel, and applying masking sheet back in place. Then adding this is our final layer. This is Elementsync Sundance again. Then a little bit of green sleeves and a bit of dark denim. Remembering it's darker at the outside edges. Happy days. Remove your masking sheets and look what you've got. That's what we were after. Now I've got the left side, which is what we're doing first. So I'm using a piece of paper to mask, and I've got Dragonstone Castle stamp, which I've inked up in Medieval Blue, Versafine Clair Medieval Blue. And this is the Stones Large stamp that I'm using to apply some texture to the bottom of our pond, lake, whatever it is. And I've used Medieval Blue again there, Versafine Clair Medieval Blue. And now let's create a foreground. So I've got fairy barnacles, and I'm inking that up again in Versafine Clair Medieval Blue and creating this lovely, if you like, fairy garden. So any castle you go to has a fairy garden, don't they? Work out which way, maybe any underground castle you go to has a fairy garden. So I'm just working out how I want this flower bed or barnacle bed to work. There we go. And now we do the same to the right side, but without the castle. So again, Versafine Clair Medieval Blue, Stones Large stamp, and just running that along the bottom to create a base texture. Or if you like, a frame maybe. There we go. Look at that. Fab. Just remember which way round it goes. Okay, so I've got my fairy barnacle stamp again, and I'm inking it up with Versafine Clair Medieval Blue and creating something similar, although not exactly the same, because let's face it, in nature, nothing is ever exactly the same, unless, of course, you're a butterfly, where your wings mirror each other exactly. Or even perhaps a snowflake. But anyway, so don't beat yourself up about it. It doesn't have to be absolutely exactly the same. There we go. What are we up to now, I ask myself. So this is inked up in Versifying Clair Warm Breeze, and this is Seaweed 2 stamp, which I think they're lovely. They remind me of the tentacles of an octopus, but that's not what they are here. And we're just adding an extra colour, an extra bit of depth to that scene, okay? Repeat to the other side. Again, remembering you don't have to mirror exactly, but try and keep it balanced. So that's, haha, mermaid is going on the right-hand side. Now this is Althea, and we've inked her up in Versifying Clair Nocturne because she's important. And she needs to be in a slightly different colour. Okay, and make sure she's a good stamp there. There we go. Fabulous. She's in position. And she's surrounded by blue orbs. And we're going to add it to the journal now. So cut it, measure it, and cut it to size as closely as you can. So I'm just applying my bibbidi-bobbidi glue. Fab. And sticking it into position. Lovely. And try and tuck it into the centre bit. Now I've got a metal ruler which I tend to use for things like that. And then just cut any extra off. Okay, so that's your first side. Now your second side, because I cut a bit off the centre to make it fit, it won't mirror exactly, but you know what? It doesn't matter. It looks fab either way. So I'm just going to run the gauntlet a bit here. I've measured it and I'm working out where I want it to stick. And I think it's important that the top level is level. So that's what I'm going with. Again, adding my bibbidi-bobbidi glue. Smudging it with nature's spatula, your finger, and popping it so that it's as level as I can get it with next door with the previous page. Okay, and now, my friends, we trim it with a pair of rather sharp scissors. Now I'm using my Sizzix scissors here, which I like to keep for my paperwork because they seem to do the job beautifully. There we go, tucking that in again. And my friends, you did it! That was part 1. Well done! Well, I really enjoyed that. I always enjoy crafting. Love creating things. So, this week we've created that watery background. We've mirrored it on both sides. We've got it stuck down. We've even got our mermaid in place. But the question is, what happens next? Well, you're going to have to wait until part 2 for that, I'm afraid. So I hope you can join me. Thank you very much for coming along today. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you've got any comments you'd like to make about this craft, please pop it in the post below and I will do my best to get back in touch with you as soon as I possibly can. But in the meantime, you have fun and happy crafting. Bye.